Is this reality, or is this a shadow of something much larger? Is this the reality that we were just predestined to live, or is there a way that we can actually co-create our reality with an unseen force that we don't really know that much about? These questions may bend your mind, but they are the questions that I want to answer in today's video, where I'm going to be breaking down what is the difference between 3D, 4D, and 5D, and how they affect you in your every single day life, whether you realize it or care about it or not. I'm also going to be going into how you can actually stop manifesting from the 3D, which is slow manifestations, and start manifesting from the 5D, which is easy, fast manifestation. Because the more awareness that you have, the more power that you take back to create a reality that you really want. People explain these dimensions in a load of different ways, and it took me a long time to understand them because of the different ways that people explain them. People can describe them as just different dimensions of measurements, so width, length, and height. That's what makes up our 3D realm. Other people describe them in terms of emotional frequency and vibration. But all of these things actually interweave together. It's not one or the other. From my perspective, it's both. To understand this, I'm actually going to start by referencing more of the emotional side of things, and you'll start to see how these things weave together. This is something called the map of consciousness. It was developed by David R. Hawkins, and he has a book called Power versus Force, which is an incredible book. Highly recommend that you guys read, but it basically breaks down this graph. So in this map of consciousness, you can basically see that each individual emotion has been given a specific number. This is the energetic log, or in other words, the vibration. Now, this is important because we'll refer back to this later as we go through what 3D, 4D, and 5D is, because it's a really great reference point for how our bodies act as like a tuning fork for the dimension that we're tuning into. A lot of the world at the moment is living in a very 3D state. Now, for anyone that is new to this topic, you may be like, well, of course we're in a 3D state. This is 3D reality. You are sitting on a chair. I can feel your hand. I can feel pain. Like, this is the 3D reality, and you are fair to think that. Matter is real, and this experience is real, but it is not everything that we are seeing. Science shows that we are actually only perceiving around 1% of the total of reality. That means that 99.99999% of reality is made up of something else. That something is plasma, which is the fourth state of matter. If you want to learn more about plasma, my friend Dana has an incredible book called The New Force, which goes into all about plasma as the fourth state of matter. I highly recommend this as a read. But when you are just living in the belief that this is everything, that the 3D reality is it, you trap yourself in a very logical way of thinking. A lot of the time people start saying things like, life is happening to me, I have no control in this. And they start to believe that they have no control in the way that their life plans out. And that's not true. So knowing that there is 99.999% of matter that is not what we can physically see, that leaves the question, what is it that we are actually engaging with? Wouldn't it make sense that that was actually more of reality than what we are experiencing as the less than 1% of reality? I would probably say so. The question then is, how do we communicate with that 99.99999% of reality? And can we actually start to shape the 1% of reality that we are actually experiencing? For anyone that is currently in a place where you feel like you are stuck, where things aren't clicking together in the way that you wanted to, maybe you have all of these things that you want to manifest, but they aren't coming through in the way that you thought or expected that they would, and you're starting to feel frustrated and even a little bit low because people around you seem to be changing their life, so why isn't it happening for you? I want you to know that I see you. I have personally been in this exact position. I used to be an alcoholic who was socially anxious in a job that did not light up my soul, and I consistently thought that life was happening to me. I attracted a plethora of bad luck over and over and over again. And it wasn't until I started healing myself and looking into this work that my reality started changing, because what I realized was life wasn't happening to me. It was giving me opportunities for me to rise and change. But I wasn't seeing them as that. And so this is where our perception is really important. So back when I was an alcoholic, I was living in a very 3D place. Now, the 3D from a measurement perspective is just height, length, and width. Those are the three dimensions that we are able to perceive through our senses. What this means from an energetic perspective is that we don't actually have any awareness of self. A lot of the time when you are in 3D and you just are aware of what is around you, we are often in a very reactive state. We believe that life is happening to us. We are actually often in survival, fight, flight, or freeze, than we are in a state of expansion. It means that we're often experiencing much lower dimensional feelings than we are higher dimensional feelings. And when we experience low dimensional feelings, it means that our vibration actually slows down. So when we're manifesting from a 3D perspective, or we are just living in a 3D way, our vibration is very slow because we are experiencing lower density feelings. So this is where that map of consciousness comes back in again. because you can see that the 3D, which is basically all matter and life is just happening to you, you will naturally experience more of these emotions because this is what our nervous system is actually primed to deal with. Our bodies are literally built for survival. We are built to operate in this 3D reality. Even our brains are wired to keep us safe versus to see what is objectively true. Our brains will literally filter out reality just to prioritize the things that it will know will keep us safe. And remember, this comes back to our tribal needs because our nervous systems and our brains haven't developed enough to realize that we're not living in tribes in the wilderness anymore. The basic needs are still belonging to a tribe, making sure that we're not getting into conflict and dying. And it's not registering that if we get rejected by someone, that it doesn't mean death. It doesn't mean that we're excluded from the tribe and we're going to be hunted by a saber-toothed tiger all of a sudden. Our brains don't understand that difference. So when we're living in a state of survival, we're seeing more of the everyday reality as a threat, a direct threat to our nervous system, because that is the default subconscious response from the amygdala and the parts of the brain that are wired for safety. That is why when you are trying to manifest from this 3D reality, you can say that you want all of these things, but if your nervous system is feeling triggered from a lack of safety and just trying to survive and get through the day, then you are going to be operating at that lower vibration and dimension. This is when, from a manifestation perspective, you are literally manifesting matter from matter. You start to go into logic and you only believe that you can manifest through time very linearly. So this is where someone will decide in order for them to get rich, they need to work 40 years and they need to climb the corporate ladder and they need to put in a certain amount of reps and only then will it eventually come. That's a very logical, linear, 3D way of manifesting because it's linear. It's not including any other parts of the world. It's just what we know right now. This is what is real. This is what is possible. It is logical. And that's how most people are manifesting. And this is why most people are stuck. Now, what's really interesting, going back to this map of consciousness, is the majority of people who are manifesting in the 3D don't actually even hit on courage. Now, courage is a really important emotion because it gives us the drive and the momentum and the courage and the bravery to be able to take different action. Action is a really important part of manifestation. And when we don't have courage, changing our reality, which often looks like doing something radically different to what we've always done, comes with fear. And if people don't have access to this courage, this feeling of being brave enough to take that next step, no matter how hard they try, they're constantly going to be coming up with the three-dimensional feelings of fear in their nervous system around taking that next step, which is always going to push them back down into this 3D reality. If we then go to the difference between 3D and 4D, your 4D is essentially your consciousness. This is essentially like the bridge between your 3D reality and the 5D reality, and it's really important. Another way to think of it is like the antenna. It is broadcasting a signal into the 5D. If we look at this from a measurement perspective, we have length, width, height, and then time. So time is this fourth measurement, and our brains can't even conceptualize this. If you actually look at what a 4D shape looks like, they're all complete guesses because our brains can't even interpret what a 4D reality would look like. We can't conceptualize what it would seem like for a 4D being to actually see the world. Now, I do have theories around what a 4D being would see. If you want me to do a separate video on this, please let me know. It would probably have something to do with being able to see linearly that we are on a timeline and you can go to any point in time on a linear timeline. So that's what time is. It's an understanding that everything is happening all at once on our timeline. But from this place, there isn't the perspective of being able to switch timeline. Now, from an energetic perspective, what this basically means is that we have awareness that our consciousness is an energetic field that spans space and time. And so when we're in this space, it basically means that we have awareness of our pattern. Your consciousness is shaped by your thoughts, your belief, your emotional state, and all of the things that are often unconscious and below the surface. This is where you actually shift into a life is happening for me. And you can start to see, even when things are difficult, they are helping you to create more awareness so that you can expand your conscious awareness. When you're here, if we return back to the map of consciousness, this is where you start to vibrate a little bit higher. The emotions that you're starting to feel are a little bit more expanded because you are intentionally starting to regulate your nervous system because you understand the frequency with which you are giving off on a very subconscious level. We have the power to change our entire consciousness by changing our most dominant thoughts, beliefs, and emotional frequency. Now, Manifestation will often say you just have to think positive, but that is not your nervous system. That is spiritual bypassing, and it actually does the exact opposite of what we want to do, which is allow your nervous system to become regulated, neutral, and expanded. Now, the reason that is so important is because when you are in an expanded, neutral state, you can actually start to access the 5D. Now, the 5D, if we think about this from a measurement perspective, we will have height, length, width, time, and possibility. The possibility basically means that there are multiple timelines, that there isn't just one timeline, that we can actually switch between different timelines depending on how we feel. Now, this is really important. Our thoughts create electric currents. They are basically little signals to the universe, and they set direction for where we want to go. They create possibility in the air, but they aren't the thing that actually magnetizes us into a new reality. So when we're manifesting from 4D, we're manifesting just from our thoughts. So we're creating possibility, but we're not actually feeling into possibility. 5D responds to our feelings. Feelings are magnetic. So thoughts are electric, feelings are magnetic. When we tune into the feelings of our future self, or a future that we want to experience, which you will typically be feeling more love, more expansion, more excitement, more of those high dimensional feelings, which we talk about in the map of consciousness, you will start to magnetize that particular timeline into you. So when you are manifesting from the 5D, you will understand that there are multiple timelines that you could tune into, that life is happening through you, not to you or for you, but you are in flow with the universe. And the more that you surrender and tune into the feelings of the future and take aligned action by following your passion, you are going to open yourself up for these miracles and synchronicities to start happening, where instead of you having to try to manifest, you just take aligned action through passion, and the universe will bring these timelines to you. Crazy things start to happen because you're not playing in the dimension of 3D reality, you are playing in the dimension of 5D reality. This is where things get really exciting. Here is where our vibration is the fastest, because you are vibrating on more of those higher dimensional frequencies. So how do you start to manifest from the 5D instead of the 3D? Here's a little diagram that I made so that you can really understand what's going on. When we're walking through life, we have multiple decision points along the way. And if we decided to take any of those different decision points, it would potentially put us on a different timeline. So throughout your entire history, you've been making these decisions, and it's been putting you on to your most aligned timeline for your energetic frequency. There is probably going to be a predictable set of steps and decisions and actions that you are going to take in the future that is dependent on your current consciousness right now. Again, your consciousness is basically influencing all of the actions that you are taking. So if you have something in your consciousness that says, I'm terrified of being judged, whenever the new decision point, which is, would you like to take this opportunity that may require you to be judged, you'll say no to that. And so you won't go on to that new timeline. But when you start to regulate your nervous system, when you start to remove some of these beliefs from the 4D consciousness, when you start to expand your capacity to hold and experience more emotions like love, you will start to shift your identity. So you will go from being who you are today to becoming a slightly different person with a slightly different consciousness. Now remember that 4D consciousness is like an antenna. It is broadcasting into your 5D reality. Now, if you get into a suggestible state and you start to feel the feelings of your future, you can start to call in these new opportunities that your future self may experience. They are different decision points in the future. And based on your level of nervous system regulation, it will dictate whether you take those actions. So you want to imagine them almost as like fork in the road moments. If you experience a fork in the road moment, you're either going to turn it and go onto a different timeline, or you're not. And the thing that dictates whether you do or don't is your nervous system regulation. It's how big your window of tolerance is in your nervous system. Everything comes back to your nervous system. So you could literally start to do this energetic work with your nervous system, change who you are, and be on a completely different timeline in the next 5 years. It works like that. Another thing that I mentioned earlier on was plasma. Essentially what we're talking about here is the 5D realm is this plasma. It is this malleable clay that we can basically work with and use through our consciousness. Dana describes plasma as being like the piping That's how our universe is built on, and that our consciousness basically flows through this piping and orchestrates this incredible reality that we get to live in. The stuff that we're talking about here is starting to become more and more proven with hard science. If anyone sat there thinking this just isn't worth my time, you are missing a trick, because I promise you in the next 10 to 20 years, this stuff is going to start to become more mainstream, but you can start to implement this stuff today. Now, the irony of all of this is that for us to access the 5D realm more, we actually need to get into our 3D bodies more. And I know that that's ironic because I've just spoken about that we don't want to be manifesting from a 3D perspective, but more what I mean is we don't want to be unconscious to all of the different dimensions that there is. Unconscious is just reactive survival scarcity. But when we are aware through our consciousness and we choose to sit in our 3D reality, to truly feel, to change our default thought, something magical starts to happen. The more we feel, the deeper we feel, the less we suppress. And the way that we complete fight or flight responses, which are essentially all of the traumas that you've ever experienced, all of the manifestation blocks that you have, they are your nervous system stuck in a state of fight, flight, or freeze. And when you start to regulate your nervous system and complete those fight or flight responses, your nervous system becomes more regulated. When you are regulated, you are expanded, and you are more of a vessel for this 5D plasma to interact with. When you use this neutral state to imagine your future self and you revisit a future energetic signature over and over and over again, plasma will co-create with your consciousness to bring a new reality to you. So to summarize all of this, your 3D is the world of matter. This is where separation exists. This is where you're searching for happiness and validation outside of yourself, and you are trying to manifest matter with matter. The vibration is very slow. The fourth dimension is your state of being. This is your consciousness. This is the bridge between the 3D and the 5D. This is where your personal reality is shaped by your default thoughts, beliefs, and personal experiences and emotions. This is what is transmitting into the quantum 5D realm. And then we have 5D. This is the realm of possibilities, where there is no time and there are endless possibilities and timelines that you can move on to. This is an expanded state where you acknowledge that everything is happening right now, and how you are feeling today in this body will impact which timeline you move on to in the future. So I hope that this was helpful, guys. If you enjoyed this, please make sure that you give this a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for future videos. It means the absolute world. It means that we can continue making videos like this for you. And if you want to put this work into practice and start manifesting through your nervous system, that is what the In-Awe app is designed to help you do. We regulate your nervous system so that you can start to take more aligned action and manifest from the 5D world. All of the information is left in the description below, and I can't wait to see you in the next video. Bye, guys.